Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Noah Scher, and today I'm sitting down with Tana Kramer, the founder of TK Solutions. She's been helping service-based businesses for the longest time, and with a background of over 20 years in the finance world, what makes her stand out is that she blends practical strategy with something that's not talked enough in the business world, which is peace of mind and financial clarity and that sort of thing. So, Tana, very, very glad to have you here today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Likewise. So let's dive right in, Tana. Your career spans, corporate finance, controller roles, and many other things. What led you to launching your firm to help service-based founders? I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and what led you up to this point.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like I've always had entrepreneurs in my family. My dad growing up was an entrepreneur and, it had mixed reviews. But and even as I started having kids, I started a business because I think I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Every single one of my siblings is also an entrepreneur. But I really have just a heart for people figuring out how to do business profitably. And I think that over the course of time, I ran into a bunch of people who were loving what they were doing, or they were loved their business, but they were really, really burnt out, or it was affecting their family. And then again, I had a similar situation in that when I was working for different entrepreneurs, it's like they always were deciding how fast we were running or how slow we were running. And I realized somewhere along the way, I have a lot of information to give, and I would love to be able to do it in a situation that I get to decide how fast we're running based on what's going on in my life. And so I actually started my firm while I was working for a startup that was kind of going crazy town. They were, it was an author who was in a time where she was blowing up, and so it was a really great time to be working there. But the goal started to become like having 100 people report to me, and I was like, that's not going to give me life. I'm not going to love that. And so she was actually doing some business coaching to her community, and I was listening to it, and I was thinking, why am I not doing this? Why am I not here listening to, for the purposes of starting a business? And so I did. So I started a business because I wanted to be able to share the skills and knowledge that I had in the places that I thought I could add the most value for business owners. I'm all about profitability. Like, be profitable because profitability equals choices in your life. Whether you reinvest or you do a great vacation, or whether you leave the money in the business or invest it personally. So I really just had this epiphany of love the ability to have like personal control over the outcomes of how I spend my time and money.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Was there a moment, Tana, where you kind of were just like, hey, I want to go all in on this, or was it kind of culmination of everything over time?
Well, I think that as with many entrepreneurs, when you first start out, you're like, can I actually make this work? So there was definitely some hesitation from can I hold all of the risk? Can I wear all of the hats and hold all of the risk? And so I actually stayed with that particular company for about a year in a part-time role because I love to have that financial, I mean, again, we're in accounting. So typically we want to have a nice financial cushion while we grow. And what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to be very picky about who I took on and help figure out like who I wanted to be as the business owner, and what kind of people I wanted to attract and what kind of clients, and then eventually team. And so I was kind of methodical about it. And then even then, like, you have sometimes, you have attrition in your client roster, or things change. And so learning to like weather that has always been, it's like a little bit like a roller coaster, right? Or you can think of it like waves, right? Like there's a wave of this and then kind of a wave of that. And so I would say that it took some time to get used to that being the norm, because previous to that I had been a W-2. So while the work might have ebbed and flowed, the income didn't necessarily. And so I was definitely methodical about that. I built up a really great nest egg in the business kind of from the start because I had that part time role. And then I had lots of choices when it came time to hire, how I wanted to reinvest. So yeah, I was pretty methodical about it.
No, absolutely, and that's smart. Planning is the base of everything. If you don't have a good plan, you're going to go nowhere. So I'd love to actually touch in on how you serve your clients. So you work with a lot of, successful businesses in that 1 to 5 million revenue range. I guess what are some of the most common financial blind spots that you see, and how do you guys come in and help them solve those issues?
Yeah. Most common blind spot is thinking that everything's fine, but also having a nagging feeling like maybe everything isn't fine. And so they usually are looking for some level of clarity about, they want to take not only their gut feeling, but also have some specific like reporting or tools to make sure that they are getting where they want to go. And so a lot of times I will have people say, hey, I've really got sales figured out, but we're not taking enough of it home, whether it be there's not enough, there's so much blood, sweat, and tears, and they're not actually getting to take the profit home. And they often don't necessarily know exactly why that's happening. They're feeling it in their pocketbook. They're like, hey, maybe we need to, get more capital because we're running out of cash, or we need more better reporting so we can determine, what the loss leaders are in the business. And so I really get into where they are, kind of successes and failures right this second. What are the things that are keeping them up at night? What are the things that are like, I feel like somebody should look at this, but I don't have time. And then we start to talk about where they're trying to go, kind of their wish list, whether it be reporting wish list, or I really would like to start this other thing, a different business line, et cetera. And so we then take and I kind of merge those two and say, like, okay, how can we start to build the bridge to get you there? And so usually that looks like, first I just get into their books and be like, what is happening in here? Are you making decisions based on good information, or are you even looking at it? Because sometimes they're still not looking at it, or you know what I mean? Or they're just looking at the number. Maybe they don't have the right accounting basis, right? Like it's hard in a cash based business to tell if you're profitable. So sometimes we just start with creating, some better reporting so that they can make decisions. And then we kind of, we build from there. So state of the union, where are we? Where are we trying to go? We start to build the bridge of the data to support that. And then we start to think about, forecasts. If this and that happen or stay the course, when can we do that other thing you want to do? And so we just sort of build that infrastructure.
So kind of understanding everything before making a decision.
For sure. For sure.
Absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
So kind of, I think this ties into that is one of your signature offers is, the financial wellness assessment. Can you walk us through what that looks like and what kind of insights, a client would walk away with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends a little on the client because, right,
Yeah,
everybody is in a different place. But again, I'm,
for sure.
I'm getting into the books and I'm seeing like, do we have reconciliations? Are the books up to date? If I can, like if the books are up to date and there's relatively good information, then I'm looking at, year over year. I'm looking at their different product lines. I'm looking to figure out how profitable they are. And I'm always guessing or like taking that with what they're guessing and try to ground is I see that true in the numbers. Because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs think a lot about what they think is happening. And I'm always like, great. And what does your bank account tell me is happening? Because your reconciled bank account is going to give a deeper level of understanding about how you're truly spending money. I find that people have a tendency to spend the same money twice in their brain, and that doesn't work in real life. And so we go in and we get a sense of does what's happening here make sense, and can you make decisions based on what you want to know? And if not, I give recommendations to here are the things, here's where I would start as far as either cleanup of books or tweaking the reporting to get a little bit more data points in that reporting. And then we start to talk about, okay, great. So once we get that cleaned up, here's where I could see you going. And so I give them like usually 10 or 15 points, depending on, clean or messy things are, how much detail they gave me on the front end. And I just start to tie in, here's how I could see you could achieve what you're trying to achieve. And so again, it's a little different for everybody, but it's definitely clean up your books. It's definitely start talking about a forecast and then how we can get you to what you're trying to achieve. And so everyone comes away with different touch points, of course, because everyone's goals are different. But yeah, that whole process just is how do we ground into the real data and so that you have a really solid foundation for getting where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that approach. I mean, it seems like you guys are trying to start from zero, see where everything's at, kind of an
Yep.
analysis and a diagnosis for each and every client. And that's very not common, especially in a lot of businesses, will just hand over books or hand over reports without explaining what it means. So I like that
Yeah.
approach.
And it's kind of my requirement. I mean, I get pushback sometimes from clients. I want to get into their books. I want to make sure that I can add value on day one. And so, sometimes they're like, I think they assume maybe I just want to like see what they paid the last person. I don't care what you paid the last person because you and I are going to figure out what you need. So I do actually require it as my first step. I don't do book sight unseen because that's a win lose for everybody, or it's actually lose lose. And so I find that like that sort of set the playing field of what we think we can accomplish together from the get go.
Yeah. No, I love that approach. And I guess, do you have any client stories or, what kind of results or transformations do clients typically see when they go forward with the program?
Yeah, again, definitely varies. I've got a couple of clients who they thought maybe they would keep their internal resource, and once we like got in there and figured out how we could, structure the data and get them the reporting, they realize I just need to have these guys be the fully outsourced accounting firm. And then I have others that they're like, great, I'm so glad you got that cleaned up and you got us some of the tools that we want. Can you now show this person how to do it? And I actually consider that a win. I know a lot of times people would consider, some client attrition to not be a win, but I'm like, if the business owner can handle doing that with a lower cost resource because we've built an infrastructure, I'm fine with that because that means I get to help the next guy instead of just being rinse and repeat.
Exactly.
So again, lots of different things. Sometimes people hire their own person after we get things kind of set up. And I don't consider that a loss. And then other times they're like, hold on, you guys do that so much more efficiently. Please do that for us. But, I think that working with me in general, I'm all about, I think I said this before, all about profitability. So if you are not where you want to be from a profitability standpoint, we're going to figure out why and we're going to fix it.
Hell yeah.
And so, yeah. So, because again, I really, really want people to be successful. I don't want people to be burned out in entrepreneurship. I want them to love what they do and get to do the things that they want to focus on so that they can, ultimately enjoy their life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like that you say that, having good clients is what you want, not just the highest amount. If you want people who are, fit your model and everything like that, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you work with a lot of, high performing founders. I guess what habits or systems or tools do you see among the ones that are the best? And what advice would you give to someone who, wants to become a better leader or a better business owner, but they have no idea where to start?
Absolutely. I would say get in rooms where you're learning something. I think the best leaders are constantly learning. They don't think that they're the smartest person in the room. And if they are, they might be giving back in that room, but they're also in another room that is stretching them. And surrounding yourself with people who are trying to do more or better. If you're in a room where everyone's just complaining, you're going to be complaining. I think the best leaders are open to innovation. They're open to looking at something from a different angle. They're open to making changes. And I think, if anything, one of the other downfalls is sometimes people make changes too fast. And so learning to know, oh, we need to see this out for a minute, and then there's a trigger point in which we say, okay, this is not working, but to kind of establish that a little bit on the front end so that you don't get like cold feet. So yeah, they're both wanting to learn things and know sometimes we have to like slow down to speed up.
Gotcha. So I guess what is the first step that you would take with someone, something simple that they could start today and start implementing?
I would say the very first thing is, do you have the data that you need to make great decisions? And if
Yeah.
you don't, start there.
Hmm.
How
Fair
can
enough.
you invite other people in to figure that out? Or again, maybe it's just they need to check in and look at it, right? So yeah, make sure that the data is good. And then the other thing I would say is, for entrepreneurs specifically, is do you love what you're doing? Because if not, you get to choose. If you don't love what you're doing, make the tweaks in your business to be doing what you love, because
Exactly.
everything else is easier.
Exactly. Once you find your passion and what you want to do it for, it makes those long days much easier. Absolutely.
100%.
So, Tana, one thing you talk about that I like, and that's kind of an awkward topic, especially in the finance world, is, like the emotional side of money. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone's trying to avoid it and whatnot. So why would you say that it matters? And, how do you help, clients manage that and maybe overcome those preconceived notions about like, talking about their feelings regarding money and whatnot?
Yeah. I would say that emotions are often what's driving the train. So
Hmm.
if you think you can ignore your emotions, you're sorely mistaken.
Hmm.
And we all have, limiting beliefs around money, whether it be things that we learned as a child, or, things that like this can't be possible because you can't see yourself doing that. And so I like to work with people to ask like questions about that. Like, Why do you think that? Or are you sure that's the only way to do it? Because at the end of the day, I think that if you can release some of the limiting beliefs or the sort of like scarcity around money,
Yeah.
your business will do better. So you have to do the work in that respect, because if you live in scarcity, your team will also live in scarcity, and that is not a good leadership style. So I have a client who I love, 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 and every once in a while I'm like, are your like limiting beliefs showing right now?
Yeah.
And so, without going into too much detail, like we just talking like, hey, is that coming from a scarcity place, or is that coming from here's what's actually going on, and we need to just be planning for it? And so, a lot of times, it's that there's an internal fear that is, creating doomsday, and that isn't usually true. I mean, we can always make more money. We can, and not to say that we should then, light it on fire. Never a fan of lighting money on fire, but we can redirect and choose something different and go out and get some more money, make some more money.
Yeah, I like that you say that, and I would agree with that. With everyone that I've spoken with that's successful, whether it's people I bring on the podcast or with my own business, with founders I speak with, every single one that's doing good says the same thing: that there's always more money to be made, always more clients to bring on, always more room for growth. It's all starts mentally, and it's such a simple concept, right? Oh, just have unlimited belief, but it's really hard in practice, especially when you have other factors coming in that make you think negatively and give you that doomsday mindset. So kind
For
of breaking
sure.
out of that. So I guess what is the first step to breaking out of that mindset? For someone who's maybe in that doomsday mindset, or anything that goes wrong, they think it's the end of the world. What's the first step to take to kind of break out of that, I guess?
I mean, I think the first step is to work to have non-attachment, because a lot of times, like if a client leaves, the client is leaving because of their situation. And if there's no longer alignment between you and the client, that's okay. Like let them go find the people that are going to be in alignment, and then we will also. So I think that having some level of non-attachment to the outcome, it's not a personal. And even if they're like mad about something that happened, like it's never personal. It's like they need what they need, and then you can't provide that anymore. That's not a personal attack on you. Go find people who think that you're awesome, because I mean, I've talked to a lot of really amazing people, and if you're not in the right room or you don't have the right people surrounding you, find the people that will lift you up, and that you can lift up as well.
Yep. Having no client is better than having a client that doesn't match what you guys both want, right?
Absolutely, because it's going to be hard and painful for everybody. And if you can find synergy, I mean, when you can find synergy, like the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. A lot of founders, especially in the early stages, I feel, just want to bring on any and every client, even if it's not their niche or someone that they actually can help. So that's good advice there. I guess I'd love to switch gears here a bit, Tana. With everything going on in 2025, there's whether it's tariffs or AI automations, there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening right now. What are your predictions, I guess, with specifically AI and automation in the accounting, bookkeeping, finance world, in the next few years? What do you see there happening?
Well, I love anything that takes the rote and routine out of the equation, so that we can think about the more nuanced, right? Because AI is never gonna be able to handle nuance. It's going to be very black and white, and so we can jump in with very black and white, see very black and white that the AI created, and we can take that data and do something with it. And so I'm totally a fan of any amount of automation or making things easier. Now, they're not perfect, so you still have to check them. I mean, the number of times people will be like, "Oh yeah, that just happened." I'm like, "Yes, but you still need to make sure that it understood, because right, sometimes one business something isn't a deductible expense, and in a different business something is, and so it's gonna again that's nuance. So it's gonna take somebody to say for this client act like this, and if AI can get on board with having some additional parameters, I think the sky's the limit. So I'm not afraid of AI. I know that plenty of people in the accounting world are not, but I'm like, the actual coding of transactions, like that's not the most fun thing ever. That's the means to getting the data that you need to be making more nuanced and decisions. So yeah, I'm all for innovation. Definitely
Yeah.
core value.
Yeah, and I come from a family of accountants and CPAs, and that was a huge fear in the last few years that we're going to become obsolete and whatnot. And AI, like you said, it will never replace humans in the sense, especially in accounting, because it may automate certain workflows or data and whatnot, but it's not a decision maker. You're going to need someone who has expertise to look at a broad scope of a situation and make a decision. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And again,
totally.
if the more it can automate the day to day, the deeper you can get into, wait, what's going on there? How can we fix that? Whereas, like we were talking about month end close a few minutes ago, it's like that month end close is repetitive. And so you don't get as deep in any of your other analysis if you live in month end close timer. So if it speeds up month end close, great. Let's use that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. So Tana, what is next for TK Solutions in the next, 3 to 5 years? Are you guys looking to grow the business, maintain it, or what do you have planned for it?
Um, we the last year we kind of did a little bit of a in 2024 we did a little bit of a rebuild where I shifted again, letting go of some of those clients that didn't necessarily need the financial consulting that I was really looking for. So even though our revenue didn't change a lot, it feels better inside the business. And so I'd say going forward, we're definitely looking at growing the tax practice a little bit. My husband is an enrolled agent, so we're definitely doing that. And then I probably will add another couple of bookkeepers on the team. But yeah, it's a lifestyle business for me. I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily usually equate with an accounting firm, but I want to be able to we were traveling. Right now we're actually in Nashville. We were traveling in our RV before that. So I want to grow the business a little bit, but I don't have any crazy ideas because in the season I'm in life right now, my kids, we just launched our kids. They haven't married, nobody's married and having kids yet. And so in this season, I want to be pretty available to travel and do lots of fun things. But perhaps we'll go through another growth spurt in 5 years. But right now, the focus is actually pretty personal. Again, serving clients well, doing a good job, and then doing lots of fun things on the off bits. So yeah, for the next couple of years, I see the personal being a little bit more of the focus. But I will work until I die because I love what I do.
Absolutely.
So I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah, and that's the point of it, right? To start a business is you want to eventually enjoy the fruits of all your grinding and all your work. So,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
what's the dream destination?
All of them. Meaning, right now we're kind of, I would say, bumming around the United States. I'd love to spend some time in Europe in the next couple of years. And then I've got a couple of vacations planned so we can see like what are some other places. So yeah, I don't know. I've only traveled abroad a couple of times, and so I feel like there's still plenty of places I have no clue about, and I'm here for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm excited for you and I look forward to seeing, where you guys go with the business and everything like that. Tana, for this was a very fruitful conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience and everything like that. For someone in the audience who, wants to learn a little bit more about your work or, reach out to you regarding the business, what's the best place they could reach you at?
Definitely on LinkedIn, also on Instagram, and then the website is just my name, so tanakramer.com, because it's easy. So yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, or just reach out to me via the website.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll link everything in the show notes. And to anyone who's listening who needs some clarity and needs someone on their team, please reach out to Tana. Thank you, Tana.
All right, thanks. Have a good
Thank you,
one.
guys.